Back in 2011 or 12, I gave a presentation at the Palm Desert Chamber of Commerce. It was a couple of minutes long, 5 minutes. I was sponsoring their chamber event. And they gave me a couple of minutes to talk about my business. And the gentleman came up to me at the end and said, how do I get to be as good as you? And I was so flattered, of course, by being told I was a good speaker that I almost started to take credit for it. Until I stopped myself and said, well, you have to come to Toastmasters. I didn't want to say, well, you just be me. But I did. And he said, what's Toastmasters? And boom, bang, bing. 2 days later, he showed up. And 12 years later, here we are. My husband, Brian Rouley, who I sponsored as a qualified speaker, will be sharing with everyone his super secret way on how you can use your brain's pharmacy to make yourself happy. Brian?
Boys and girls, moms and dads, children of all ages, Bozo Circus is on the air. Those are words I heard as a child. I lived in a suburb of Chicago, and it was WGN television network. World's greatest network, WGN. And Bozo Circus was on, and I realized every time I heard those words, I got excited, and I could feel the joy of anticipating what was about to happen. So today I'm going to share with you what I call your daily dose of happiness. And DOSE is the acronym. It's D-O-S-E. You're going to hear me say this at least 6 times, and I'm hoping you'll say it at least 4 times with me. I'll get you started. It is dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. These are all chemicals that work in your brain depending on what's going on with you, how you're feeling, what you're thinking, other things you can do. You can create these chemicals for yourself, and it's just like you have a secret drug deal going on in there, just for you and your happiness. The first one is dopamine. So it's dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. The first one is dopamine, and that is the anticipation drug. When you're looking forward to something so much, and you start to get excited, and you think, oh, this is going to be so great. Like when I was a kid, and the carnival would come to town, I had to walk about 4 blocks to get to the carnival. It was that close to me. And as I'm walking along, I start to hear the kids on the ride screaming, having all that fun and the excitement that was generated for them at the carnival. And as I even got closer, I could smell the popcorn. And as I marched on, wait, yeah, I do. I have to bring my change. I had to have a pocket full of quarters, otherwise I'm not going to be able to enjoy it when I got there. Had my quarters, so I'm okay. And as I got even closer, there was that sweet smell. And I know they've got cotton candy there. I'm going to get me some of that. That is dopamine in a nutshell. Think of the last time you were so looking forward to something that before you even had the thing you were looking forward to, you just were jazzed. Your brain is on fire. You're just really happy and excited. It's D-O-S-E, and I want you to try to say it with me. Are you ready? It's dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Yay, we're getting there. All right. The second one is oxytocin. This is the love drug. All right. Whenever you hug somebody, even if you shake hands or fist bump, you see guys on the football field slapping each other on. All of the physical contact you can have with someone else is going to create oxytocin for the two of you. And the best part about hugs is that you never run out. Your supply is unlimited, and every time you give one, you get one. So it's a win-win situation. There are other ways to generate oxytocin. One of them is by being helpful and kind to other people. What happens in that case is the person you're helping feels the love that you're expressing in the kind thing you're doing for them. And you get it too, because guess what? You came up with this great idea of being helpful to someone else. What happens to everybody else? Anybody else who sees you being nice to someone else also gets a shot of oxytocin. It's like this kumbaya. We're all in this together, right? We all get to enjoy the same feeling of it's a loving kindness kind of act. And you can find ways to do it. I can give you ideas on that, but I want you to say it again with me. This is the daily dose. It's DOSE. It's dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. So with serotonin, this is what I call nature's drug. And you can have it anytime you're willing to open your door and go outside. And if you don't know, or you haven't realized, when you go outside, that overwhelming sense of well-being that you feel, that's because you're part of nature. And nature, for lack of a better word, loves you, because that's why they call it Mother Nature, right? It's the motherly love you get by being part of this great big picture of the world. And the joy of seeing the green grass and the green trees and the blue sky, or if you're like me and you get up real early in the morning and you step outside into that fresh air and the stars are still in the sky, you can just enjoy some peace and quiet for a moment and look at the wonder of the beautiful artistry of the stars and the constellations. And sometimes that moon is so bright, I feel like I'm going to cry when I get outside. So use all of these. And the last one is endorphins. We're going to say it one more time. It's DOSE for your daily dose. So it's dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. So endorphins come from any time you move, any movement. If you just do this, you're creating endorphins in your brain. You've probably heard of the runner's high. You guys are out there running miles and miles, and they get into this state of zen that they feel like they've transcended to another plane of just enjoying life. That's the runner's high. You don't have to go run a marathon to enjoy endorphins. You can do something as simple as making someone laugh. My ex-wife bought me a pair of pants one time, and she said, I need you to try them on. So I put on the pair of pants, and they just felt so good. They fit me so well. I started to dance. I said, this is my happy pants dance. And I did this stupid dance. I was just making her laugh. And she started laughing so hard that she could barely breathe, and the tears are coming down. And I didn't know it at the time, but she was experiencing an overload of endorphins, just making someone laugh. Laughter raises your heart rate. It definitely makes your brain happy. It's more than just the laughter that's making you happy. It's the chemical response to the physical exertion of heavy breathing. Anytime you raise your heart rate, you get endorphins. So one of the things I recommend to everyone, and you've heard this your whole life, eat well, exercise, right? But the easiest exercise and one of the most beneficial exercises you can do, anybody? That's it. First thing in the morning, get out of bed, take a walk. And you're already in nature, so you're getting that double dose, right? So you can put these things in combination. And one of the things that I do, my little checklist that I go through, first let me tell you about my wife's checklist. She makes checklists of things she's going to get done during the day, because every time you check off a box of an accomplishment, you get another little drip of dopamine. So my wife starts her checklist with make a checklist, and then she checks off that box. I've been going through my checklist for so long, it's not even on paper anymore. I just have it on my phone and look at it every now and then. First thing I do when I wake up is I remember that my next breath was not guaranteed, but here it is, and I'm awake. I love waking up in the morning. With my wife laying next to me, all I have to do is reach over and put my hand on her, and I get that oxytocin that I told you about, the love drug, right? And then, before I even get out of bed, I think, what am I going to get done today? Who am I going to be able to help? How much will I accomplish? And all of that is the anticipation. That's the dopamine that I told you about first, remember? So when I do get out of bed, now I'm moving. So, so I'm going with endorphins on this one. I get out of bed and I look forward to that snap, crackle, pop, and the pain of my knees and my toes and my ankles all snapping and crackling. And I think, man, I'm out of bed. I am way ahead now. I am cooking. I'm making so much progress. I'm just happy to be alive. And I think about all the things I have, all the things I have to be grateful for. I have a fresh drink of water. I have indoor plumbing. I have a coffee machine. So by the time the first 3 to 5 minutes of my day have gone by, I've experienced so much in the way of joy that I've created for myself. I'm feeling like it's a pretty good experience just to have another day I get to be me one more day. I highly recommend you make for yourself a checklist of all the things you're grateful for and just go through them every time you wake up in the morning. If you can do the other things, especially if you, like me, if you have pets, get your pets outside, guess what? There you are out in nature. So you've got your pets, you get the fresh air, and I'll tell you something else about pets that's good for you. If you don't have someone you can hug, pet your pets. That's why they call them pets. You're supposed to pet them. And I don't know if you know this, but it's a scientific fact that petting a dog or a cat lowers your blood pressure. Did you know that? It's people with pets live longer. That's why it's really kind of nice to have someone, in the case of dogs, you could go outside for 3 seconds to pick up the paper. By the time you come back in, they're just as happy to see you as if you came back from a 3-month vacation. They just give you this unconditional love, and you have someone to love in return. So there's your oxytocin supply. In the case of serotonin, I had an experience shortly after I decided not to be miserable anymore. It was kind of a tough time for me, but I read somewhere that if you go to the park, you take off your shoes and socks, and you walk in the grass, what happens is an electrical discharge, which is your body letting go of the stress and the tension that you carry around with you. You should try it. I guarantee it works, because by the time I got maybe 1/3 of the way into my walk in the park, the tears were coming down. I was feeling so good. And I love that experience, and having had it, always enjoy sharing that story with other people, because it's so inexpensive. It's right there. If you can find a place where there's grass, all you got to do is get out there, take off your shoes and socks and walk in the grass. Costs you nothing. All you have to do is make a commitment to yourself to have that experience. So you've got all these ways to apply the daily dose of happiness and the joy that comes with what's already available to you in your brain. And I think that if you were to make a list of all the things you can do to generate these things, in the case of dopamine, learning something new, every accomplishment you make, everything you check off your checklist. And in the case of oxytocin, like I said, there are lots of ways to find that you can be nice to people. I came up with a couple of them that have to do with being in the grocery store. If you're within arm's length of me, and I see some opportunity to say something to you and make you laugh, or at least smile, I always try to find a way to engage in conversation with the people who are next to me. There's another thing you do when you first go into the grocery store, where you go over here and you get your basket, right? And there might be somebody behind you who's waiting for you to get out of the way so they can get theirs. You can take your basket and say, here, you take this one, and you go right back over there and you get another one for yourself, and watch the response. People are so shocked when you just do that little simple act for them. Anything you can think of that's helpful to other people is another way to generate oxytocin for yourself. On the serotonin side, anything you can do in nature, if you happen to be a bike rider, a swimmer, a walker, anything you do that takes you outdoors gives you not only the serotonin rush, but also your movement will create those endorphins that I told you about. So I've given you all these ways to give yourself a daily dose of happiness. And what I want you to take with you, remember this dose, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins So take everything you have, make your own drug deal with yourself, and go out and live your happy life. Mr. Toastmaster.